Fires, whether residential or commercial, can be so destructive and devastating, and often these fires are preventable. Joining me today to discuss fire prevention and safety is Troy Hicks. He's the fire prevention officer with the City of Lethbridge Fire Department. Welcome to Bridge City News, Troy. So great to have you on today.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, Troy, every spring and fall, when we have to have a time change, which we just did this past weekend, we are reminded to check our smoke alarm battery. So, any ideas as to how many of us in Lethbridge actually do this?
I did a little bit of research yesterday to see if it was possible to find out that percentage. I like to think the percentage is pretty high. I hope with everything we get out there on social media and with even talking to people, people realize this. To actually come out and say the exact amount would be a little difficult. I do think for the amount of calls we get to places with smoke detectors or any issues like that and battery issues, the numbers are going down. So I do feel with the constant badgering, I guess you would say, that we're doing or letting people know, the numbers are getting higher and higher, so which is perfect.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Now, can you tell us a bit about how smoke alarms work? For example, they sometimes make some unusual chirping or beeping noises that annoy us. And also, where exactly should smoke alarms be placed in the home?
Yeah, perfect. When I was reading through your list of questions, this is definitely a great question. The way smoke alarms work is they'll detect smoke in the house and they will start giving off alarms. To go to the unusual beeping or annoying sounds, lots of times if the alarms beep anywhere between 3 to 5 times quickly within a few seconds and then stop, that is usually the sign it is an issue with the detector. What I recommend for people to do is have a look at the detectors that they have. Their owner's manual, it will say exactly what the amount of beeps or chirps mean. But 9 times out of 10, if they're beeping quickly and there is no smoke or no fire, it means it is a battery issue. Another thing we have with this too that lots of people are not aware of is lots of smoke detectors are hardwired. They're wired to the power of the house. And so some people think, well, they don't have batteries. Lots of times this isn't the case. There is still a battery backup. So if they start beeping, just take it down, have a look, and it's a good idea to change the batteries for sure. It's also a chance to look at the expiry date. Smoke detectors do have a 10-year lifespan as well as a carbon monoxide detector as well. So it's a good idea to have a look at that expiry date also. Now for where they should be installed, smoke detectors definitely need to be installed outside every sleeping room. So if your bedrooms are in one hallway, definitely need a smoke detector outside. Over the last quite a few years, code has changed, and now there's actually smoke in any new homes that are built. Smoke detectors are installed in every sleeping quarters, as well as outside the sleeping quarters. One of the biggest things to remember, and sometimes there's not a lot the public can do. You rent a place or you move into a house, and the detectors are already there. Sometimes the detectors are mounted awful close to bathrooms, or they're mounted awful close to a kitchen. We see a lot of our false alarms coming from this. People nowadays shower with their door open, I guess, and so the steam does set them off, as well as inside their kitchen. I mean, lots of times it's just burnt toast or whatever. So we usually recommend a smoke detector be at least 10 feet outside of the kitchen area, just so you're not getting those nuisance alarms.
Yeah, I can speak from experience there. Ours is always going off whenever something burns on the stove. It might be a little too close to the kitchen there. So good advice on that for sure. So,
It definitely happens, yeah.
yeah. So, Troy, what are the numbers? How many lives could be saved by having a smoke detector in the house? How many lives are saved but maybe weren't because they didn't have one in place or didn't replace the batteries?
I did go through some stats, and now this is the stats we draw from is North America wide. And they say on average, 3 out of every 5 deaths that are a result of a structure fire or a home fire, um, these are homes that did not have working smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors. So that's a pretty good percentage. I mean, maybe good's not the right word, but it's a very high percentage. So the importance of smoke detectors, they have to be, you need them. This day and age with materials and everything, and just the risks, everything's electronic. We have so many things, so much fuel load in our homes and in our properties now. that every second counts. We say this all the time, and yeah, it's very important to have these working smoke detectors.
Definitely. And now you had mentioned carbon monoxide detectors as well. So maybe talk about the importance of that. Why are they necessary?
Well, carbon monoxide is they always call it the silent deadly killer. 9 times out of 10, you don't smell it, you don't know it's there, and a person can actually be poisoned by a very small amount of carbon monoxide over a long period of time, or by a long amount. And like instances I've seen here in the city of Lethbridge in my time here was people will complain of headaches or people will complain of issues. And through investigations, we found out that people say maybe have a natural gas fireplace in their home and it's just not working properly. So carbon monoxide is it's a very dangerous thing. And it's highly recommended that people have a carbon monoxide detector in their home. Some other things that could lead to carbon monoxide in your house is the importance of ensuring your dryer vents are always clean, especially outside the home. I know most of us don't want to say it, but the snow is coming, and we have these things. We get snow piled up high by our dryer vents or our clean air intakes outside our homes, and that's going to lead to some carbon monoxide poisoning. So, just reminding the public to make sure they get outside, make sure all the vents to their home are clear at all times, and make sure they're good for this. And like I said, have a working carbon monoxide detector. You can get different types. You can get combination smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, and then you can also get battery operated ones. Or mine I have at home takes a battery and also plugs into an electrical outlet. So they are very important. They work very well.
Okay, great advice there. Now, if you just have a carbon monoxide detector, is there a specific place that should be placed in your home?
That's a fantastic question. Depending on the size of your house, we all live in different size homes. You need to also look at where the risk of carbon monoxide is possibly coming in your home. If you have solid fuel burning appliances like a wood burning stove or a fireplace or things like that, very good to have one by there. The wood burning and everything can cause carbon monoxide. Also, if you have an attached garage, we remind everybody they should not be warming up their vehicles in their attached garage or anything like that. Pull the vehicle out, then warm it up. But if you do have an attached garage, where the person door that comes from the garage into the home is, it'd be a good idea to have a carbon monoxide detector there. Myself, I have mine downstairs by my furnace room where the natural gas lines come in, and that's in my property. That's where I feel the risk of carbon monoxide is.
Okay, great advice there, Troy. Thank you for that. So, what are some of the most common causes of fire in a home? Is it kitchen fires or smokers not disposing of the cigarette properly? What are you seeing?
When I started here 10 years ago, number one was definitely the kitchen fires, and actual fires. Like we were having, close to double digits a month of, and the majority of these, about 90% of these were small. Lots of times the homeowner would catch them and they'd be fine. As the years have gone on, we usually average 1 to 2 structure fires or home fires here in the city of Lethbridge caused by improper disposal of smoking materials. I always tell people that I am not trying to give them trouble for smoking. People have a right, they can do what they want to do, but they just need to remember a few things. And if there's one thing I can get out to everyone to know is planters are not disposal devices for smoking materials. The cigarettes will go inside that soil of a planter, even in the winter months, and it will just smolder and smolder, and eventually it will start fire. And in the last few weeks, we've had a few fires caused by smoking, or sorry, disposal of smoking materials. We do still get the kitchen fires. Um, Most of them are false alarms, detectors too close to the kitchen and people burning their food, but we do still get them. We just recently we've had a few fires where we had someone hit the button for the self cleaning on their oven and they didn't mean to, and there was actually something in their oven. Well, before you knew it, these trays caught on fire. A self cleaning setting is extremely hot. So we have to be careful with that. And we've also had instances over the past of people bringing groceries home, putting them on top of their stove to use it as counter space, and not realizing when they drop the bags, they turn the burner on. So cooking is extremely, I mean, we all need it, but we definitely need people to really pay attention to what they're doing. So to answer your question quickly, yes, I would say cooking or kitchen fires are still number one, but definitely smoking and or electrical fires are on a steady climb up to even overtake the cooking fires.
That's a really interesting point that you bring up with the stove, especially now with most of the stove tops being very even and flat, and up against the counter. Sometimes it's easy to forget that that's actually a hot electrical appliance there.
Absolutely.
Now,
I've caught myself a couple times thinking, wait a
yeah.
minute, I need to practice what I preach and take the stuff off the stove for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. Now, Troy, should parents maybe have a talk with young kids about not playing with matches and lighters? A lot of times kids are very drawn into that.
Absolutely. Curiosity, you know what? And we all have it. Even as we get older, we still have it, but definitely children are curious and they don't understand. I am also a youth fire setter specialist here for Lethbridge as well, that I speak to kids. If there's ever an issue with young kids or someone starting a fire, lots of times they'll get forwarded to me and I speak to them. And I am happy to say that in the last few years, if I've spoken to 10 children, all 10, you could tell it was curiosity. I didn't think there was any malicious. They were just curious. They didn't understand how it worked. So, what I would really get out there to say to parents is yes, have that talk with them. There's so many uncomfortable talks we might have to have with children when they're younger that talking about fire safety should not be uncomfortable. But just to let them know when people are camping. Lots of the children I speak to that when they're camping, their parents let them help start the fire, which is great. That's fine. I really don't see an issue with that. But what I do see is reiterating to the children the importance of it, reiterating to the point that they have to be adult supervised to do it, and that if the adults and the parents are not around, that this just doesn't happen. If they do, we've had some instances here in the city where we've had fire pit complaints or fire pit calls in people's backyards, and when we get there, it's just children around the fire. That's not a good thing. The fires have to be being witnessed by a supervisor and an adult at all times. So I think it's good to let the kids learn these things and understand the fire is a good thing, but they also need to know that there's a huge risk and they need to be paying attention to what they're doing
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely. Those little ones need to be supervised around the fire for sure. Now, what about an evacuation plan? How many families actually have a plan in place? And what are the key steps in an evacuation plan?
You know, before COVID hit, I know people don't like saying the C word, but before COVID hit, we were going to schools. I was going to schools all the time, especially in the fall. And we would starting from kindergarten up and we would talk about home evacuation plans. And I was having great success with getting it through the children. And then they were taking it home. I'd have parents reach out to me by phone call or email, telling me that they were so happy with this information they got. Obviously, with restrictions and not being able to go, I've been emailing schools, trying to get them this information and send it out. So I do think there is a good amount. I found over the years, as I talk to the children or talk to different people, I have more people telling me that yes, they do have an evacuation plan than I do people telling me no. Even years ago, I would have people telling me they didn't even know if they had a smoke detector; they had no idea. So that the numbers are on the rise through education and getting out in the public and talking. I would say some of the biggest points to hit on in an emergency evacuation plan is one, everybody in a home should be sleeping with their bedroom door closed and closed tight, even the younger children. That door will act as a barrier. It will give you time if there is any smoke in your home, or heaven forbid there is a fire. It will keep you safe on the other side of that door. But what we really want people, one, if the smoke detector goes off, and unless you hear mom or dad or whoever you're living with tell you, I'm sorry, I burnt the toast again, you need to treat it as being real. Um, Parents need to work with the children, let them know where to evacuate to. If they hear the smoke detector going off, they don't go out the back door into the fenced in backyard. That's not a safe place to be, especially if it's a real fire. So chit chat with your neighbors, find a safe place for everyone to know where to get to and where to go to evacuate to. Now, one question I get asked a lot, especially from the young kids, and when I answer it, I open up a whole can of worms, is the kids are always concerned about their pets as well during a fire. And I always reiterate to them that the pets with that loud noise of a smoke detector, it scares them. So the pets are going to hide. We do not want the homeowners or the children trying to run back in to get their pets. If we get pull up to a structure fire and the entire family is outside, we are so happy. But if that family tells us that their pet, their cat, their dog, or whatever is still in the house, we're putting our gear on and we're going inside that property to get that pet the same way we would for a person. So the biggest thing to remember about evacuation plan is what to do when you hear the smoke detector, and where you need to go to for your meeting place to make sure everyone's safe.
Okay.
And then obviously we can also work with the children on how to call 911. And we've received 911 calls from children as young as 4 or 5. And as long as they know they're not using it to order pizza, then we're doing good.
Yeah, that's great. Troy Hicks, thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate all of your knowledge that you are imparting on us. It's a great advice.
Perfect. No, thank you. It was my pleasure.